Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we have a 20 Everbloom that I want to go through and talk a little bit about my experience with Everbloom. I think it's a really fun dungeon, but before we get to that, I hit over 500 subscribers. This is absolutely insane to me. Thank you everyone, thank you so much. I actually can't believe the amount of support I get here. It's really amazing. So again, from the bottom of my heart, really thank you. But yeah, enough of that, all that sentimental stuff. Let's just go right into this this dungeon, Everbloom. Everbloom was actually the dungeon that I voted for back in the last season of Shadowlands. When we had to vote when Grimroll Depot won. I knew that Grimroll Depot was gonna win because it's such a fan favorite, so it was no surprise to me. But I still actually voted for Everbloom, sorry. Simply just because this dungeon is so open and it's so. You have a lot of options as a tank, what you want to pull. And for me, for starters, I always go big here. I actually, even on Tyrannical, throw down the Bloodlust, because you don't really need it for the first boss. Yeah, the first boss has a lot of health and it takes a bit of time, but there's nothing really dangerous in it. So honestly, I would rather just have Bloodlust here, killing it fast on Tyrannical, and then also have Bloodlust going into the next pull. I'm trying to be a little bit fast here. Make sure that you have a kick up for this guy right here, the first one, and pull him back so he doesn't accidentally pull more. There's both that big tree guy that's roaming around and patrolling, but there's also a wasp that's flying in between the packs, and that can be really dangerous. That can definitely pull more for you. Talking about this mini boss, this big tree guy, when I first started this season here, I would honestly just press W until I knew better. And I would pull this guy. And what this guy actually does is, not only does he put some roots on the ground, or root you, and you have to kill the roots in order to be free. Right after that, he'll put down these leaves, a big circle, swirly, something like that will damage you and silence you. And I actually haven't been able to really pull him without either him just taking so extremely long time just because he has so much health, or that you lose a couple of players either by poor management of their defensive abilities, or just straight up, how high is your key, how much damage output is he gonna throw at you. So honestly, this guy is just 100% not worth it. It's so much faster just to skip him. It doesn't mean that you need to pull a little bit extra, and I like to take those plants that you saw into this little caster pack here, which isn't too that difficult. These packs right here it's actually really interesting because it's honestly not that bad. The damage output here that they throw is kind of manageable. Of course you need to use your CCs and kick as much as possible. But it is actually surprisingly manageable to pull extra packs in. But the thing is, and this is actually really interesting because our dear Death Knight is actually gonna end up pulling a little bit extra, and actually end up dying and causing a lot of trouble, because it's true that, yeah, you can actually group these packs up, but that's the thing, you really need to make sure that you're grouped up so you can hit everything with your CC, and you can see the DK right there going crazy, pulling extra. And I don't have CC for these guys, meaning that they are just gonna be the extra damage just casting that us DPSs can't DPS, us DPS, as I say, as a tank, but you know what I mean. Yeah, if they're not gathered up, then they're just getting free damage off, and you can't really do anything against them. So even though that you can possibly pull them together, you need to make sure that you can group them all up and make sure that you can actually target them all at the same time. I mean, honestly, shout out to our healer right there, because we only lost the DK, and that's simply just because I didn't have time to pull up all the aggro on him before he just died. And he actually also ended up apologizing right there, so no hard feelings whatsoever. So about this first boss here, this guy took me such a long time to figure out what was going on, simply just because not really much is going on. He does that breath right there you saw, which is the tank buster. Make sure you have cooldowns up for it. It's actually not that hard hitting, but you definitely want to have a little bit something up in the hierarchies. But the thing that he does, so he is gonna put down roots on like a different DPS or healer. I think healers can get it too, but the tanks won't get it. The little roots you can see besides my character right there. Now these are just gonna slow and damage whoever's like standing. But what you want to do is you kind of want to circle them around the boss to make sure that like every single of these water drops that's gonna like go into the boss actually hits the roots and not the boss. Because in this phase right now, when he's standing still, he's taking 100% extra damage. That is a lot of extra damage that he's just, you know, taking. These water drops will just fill his energy bar, and when he goes to 100%, he'll go back into his normal phase. So your task here is that you want to prolong this extra damage phase as long as you can. The way you do this is make sure that these water drops hit the roots, because then these ads will spawn instead of the tank, I mean the boss getting his energy filled. The ads themselves are really not any problem at all. You can definitely pull a lot of these here, especially also because the boss is, you know, in this phase, so he won't use the tank buster on you. He does get out of here while an ad is up, but again, as I mentioned, it's really not any problem whatsoever. All you need to do from a tank perspective is just place a boss here that I'm doing right here, because it makes it easier for everyone to like circle them around him, as well as like it takes further for the drops the water to like, you know, go all the way in here. And then you just need to make sure that you pick up aggro on all the mobs, and then this guy will fall down. I honestly don't really see the worth of bloodlusting it. I would honestly rather have bloodlust up for the second boss, but then again, the second boss also just did get nerfed, so maybe you want to switch it up. But that's at least what I'm doing for now. I like to pull these flowers for extra count percentage, simply because like it's a tank check. They really just only do stuff on you because they put this, you know, damage increase debuff on you, and so you just need to kite at the end of the pull here if it lives too long, which is honestly fine because you have so much area and there's nothing extra to be pulled. So this is a really safe extra like percentage you can just get. Now I might change this route up a little bit going into Fortified, because this area is extremely dangerous with these berserkers for my party, and I'm fine, like as a tank perspective, I'm fine as long as I can, you know, basically cast everything. It's honestly okay. Yeah, you have the damage reduction debuff right there, so you need to be mindful of that and make sure that you save some of your defensive cooldowns for like later in the fight, where like these are really like stacking off. And this might be a little bit, this probably would have been a little bit too much of a pull in Fortified, but in Tyrannical it actually works out really well, and yeah, really fine. But usually I will just like pull this entire area, because what you'll see is I'm going to skip. I'm basically going to skip the entire mage area. I think I pick up a patrol. I'm actually not 100% sure. This footage is a few days old, but yeah, I like to pull everything here. And just be mindful when you're pulling these berserkers that they're just gonna like wreck your party. So like, you know, you don't want to pull too much extra with them. This is actually a dangerous pull, because not only is the berserkers going wreck, but then also now you have the AoE dot on everyone. This can definitely be dangerous, so just be mindful of this area. If there's any place in Everbloom that you kind of want to go a little bit slower, it could be right here. I don't think there's anything wrong with like slowing down, especially around the berserkers. But I mean, with that said, the amount of like how much you can pull, you really need to analyze your party. So right now, I noticed that our healer is kind of on top of things, and it also seems like that our like DPS players are using their defensive cooldowns and stuff like that. So I'm actually quite confident in pulling this much and pulling this extra, simply just because like my party has kind of proven this point that yeah, they will survive it. So that's like the thing, right? Be mindful of your party, analyze the things. This is what we talk about in some previous videos about like how to tank, and also something I want to bring up further is this whole like adaptation, that you adapt to your party, that you don't just do these pulls if people have like continuously just proven that they cannot press defensive abilities, or maybe your healer is just really low geared and he can't keep up. Like that's a fair thing, and then it doesn't help you at all to pull this big. So kind of be mindful of that. If you can, absolutely do it. Like there's not really that much danger for you. You just need to be aware of this debuff, and else you'll be fine. And then make sure, of course, that you kick the stun cast and everything. Now the second boss here is probably one of the more chaotic fights, especially before, when it was like really like before the nerf. It did get a really hard nerf, and it's in a really good place right now, I think, personally. And my strategy for this this pull or this boss has kind of like changed a bit. So basically, that's what you need to know as a tank. He's gonna do this thing right here. This is basically the tank buster. You need to make sure that you have defensive for that, because it will still, even after the nerf, still hit kind of hard, and you will be in this pool for like a second. Depends on like your mobility and stuff like that. And then of course you have the two other mobs, the casters, who have this one cast you need to make sure that you kick. Make sure that you interrupt this guy we at right now. I think his name is Kohler maybe. And he will just, if he gets his cast off, everyone will get stunned for 5 seconds, which is basically a wipe. The other guy would put a huge healing dot on the other caster. You see me stopping it right at the last second. And basically why you want to focus on the guy who throws the stun, because yeah, healing is kind of annoying to have to deal with, but honestly that's just gonna make the fight just a little bit longer, whereas the stun will just wipe you, honestly, in the higher key. So honestly, the strategy here that I'm using is just stay close to the guy who uses the stun, make sure that you put a skull on him, let people, focus him down, and then whenever he does this like pull thing, get away like very far out. As far as you can, again with your mobility, it depends on like what tank you're playing. The same thing goes with like DPSs and healers, because the pull will also drop on them. So you kind of want to make sure that the area around the casters are free, so everyone can DPS, especially if you have like, if you have melee. But else, that's it. You really need just to make sure that you cycle your defensives, so you have something up for every time he charges you and drop the pull. Again, as I mentioned before, even though he got like a 25% nerf, it still, right there almost took me to like half my health, right? Down to 25. And I think that was like without anything. And I was really like, wondering if it used like fell devastation. But thankfully I hold it on, because that's the thing. There isn't actually that much damage on the tank outside of that tank buster. So you might be willing to use a defensive mitigation if you get hit by it and you get low, but honestly I would wait a little bit. I would like hold on. Here I am just checking my route to make sure how much percentage I need in order to skip everything that I want to. But yeah, that's the fight. It can be very chaotic, but if you just focus it down on like one caster at a time, and then of course make sure that you're kicking everything if you can, then this fight will go like pretty smoothly. So yeah, I basically pulled so much percentage just because I want to skip as much as I can here. So yeah, I do pick up the patrol, this arcane mage right here. Gonna pull him into the rest of the assistants. The assistants do hit harder than expected, but not thing that you can't deal with if you just use your defensive mitigation properly. So I would honestly won't be scared of like pulling him in, but you definitely want to throw a defensive ability on this pull right here. But yeah, the reason why I want to skip this whole area, so these mobs are really annoying because not only do they actually have a surprising a lot of health, or just more health than you maybe would expect, especially this pull right here. You also really can't chain pull that much into each other because this pull is dangerous, but also you just don't want to deal with this, like all these casts going off at the same time. So usually you would just take one of the, like at the other packs, you would just take one at a time. Meaning that like clearing this area and getting to the boss can actually take a really long time and be really tedious. So I honestly just prefer to skip that whole place and just take these, like you have to deal with these freeze because like else the boss won't spawn in. But yeah, everything else I would honestly just skip it. And I mean, of course you take some assistance at the end there. I believe there is 6, every assistant gives 1% of count, so, and there are 6 assistants at the end. I decided to go and pull a little bit extra because we have, I think we were waiting for some cooldowns to come back, you know. Honestly, I should probably just have gone for the boss. But yeah, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, we end up getting 100% count on this. Now, the reason why I mentioned earlier that I kind of want to, I'm thinking about switching up on the Bloodlust timing because this boss, with the nerfs to the second boss, this boss has kind of like turned out to be the more difficult one. And I think it might, on Tyrannical, be very worth it just to have Bloodlust up on this fight right here. It is extremely dangerous. Not only does she do a hell of a lot of damage on the AoE, like Rage Fire Storm ability. She has these ice balls right here that, you know, if you fall into them, you will be stunned and most likely killed. And then of course there is the arcane blast right here that's gonna, like, you know, pull everyone into where that lands. And it's the person that's the furthest away that like, you know, can bait it, right? So you need to kind of be mindful of where your teammates are. Especially like where is that going to be pulled you towards. There's so many times on this boss fight I have died because I just get like pulled into an ice ball, get stunned, and then maybe another ice ball gonna come, and you know it's a really tough fight. You see our healers going down right there. So having Bloodlust up for it, I think would be really beneficial actually. I might change it up for that on Tyrannical. The other thing to notice here, using your defensive mitigation is kind of weird on this boss, so you actually want to make sure that you have something up between these little casts that she does. Like, you know, the combos, the AoE Storm, the Ice Balls, and the Arcane pulling people in ability. In between she does that, she casts a lot of like Frost Balls, Fireballs, and like other Arcane Blasts on you as the tank, and they do a lot of damage because not only, well, it's magical, right? So for like a lot of tanks, it's gonna just completely bypass all their armor and like everything. So make sure that you're using your defensive abilities in between them instead of like, you know, in this Firestorm right here. So again, besides the whole mitigation and you know, in between these casts, the thing about this boss is that you need to dodge all of these mechanics. And that can be very difficult because all these mechanics are linked to different players, and you know, it's all about being mindful of where you are standing in relation to all the other players. What I like to do with this, when she does the ice calls right there, I would honestly just move out as quickly as I can, away from everyone else, because I feel like if you're standing too clamped, yeah, all the ice is gonna spawn on one point. But I have actually been in a situation where I kind of like screw the angle a little bit, so it's like you have like a millimeter of like able to, like, you know, get out right of it. So just see that she's making a cast, and then maybe 2 to 1 second before she starts casting it, then just start moving away from your team. That's actually done a lot of like luck for me, and it give you more space, you know. Even though we did skip a lot, you have a lot of like boss area to move around in, so use it. And here we are, the final boss. This boss right here is basically just a healer check. He's gonna do this big AoE frontal that you need to dodge away, point away from your team. This one right here. It's gonna like basically take 40% of your party's HP every time. And then also he's gonna spawn an ad that's just gonna like pulsate damage all the time, and then until like it's being killed. And then of course he's gonna spawn the little plants that you need to run over, and if you don't run over them, they're gonna spawn up, and then you know they're gonna cast a poison debuff on you. That's also gonna do a lot of damage. So yeah, there's basically not a lot to communicate here as anyone else but the healer. I would not mean, I'm not, you know, a healer expert or anything, but there is definitely, you know, you want to save your cooldowns for this spot right here actually, because as he's, you know, he's usually casting this thing while before you can kill that extra ad. Meaning that if that extra ad just gets, you know, because everyone else is, you know, focusing on running around, getting the plants, meaning they won't damage that ad. Meaning that ad will just, you know, pulsate more damage. And if you as a healer also are focused on getting the plant, meaning then you won't heal. I would honestly, as a healer, you just kind of have to trust that your party will help you and take care of the plant, so you can just focus on healing. I think that's much more worth it than you are, you know, because honestly, this is the thing. This might be because I'm playing a Demon Hunter again, because I have Sigil Silence, because I can actually stop the plants here from casting their poison, meaning that I can actually take a lot of the threat off them, because then they'll just basic attack you, which isn't really that hard hitting or anything. So letting a few plants go off is honestly fine. But you, so yeah, as a healer, my advice for you would basically you just need to make sure that you can heal through this. You know, it's tough. It's bad advice, or I don't know if it's bad advice, but it's just, yeah, it's all about your cooldown management, and it's all about the healer fight. We do end up bloodlusting here, and I think it's fine, because this boss is more dangerous than the first boss, but it's the same as the first boss, also just have so much health. This fight takes forever, and it's gonna be a real like tester on timing it. Simply just because, yeah, you might be able to get through it, but it's gonna require you so much time, especially here in Tyrannical. So putting Bloodlust on it is honestly, I wouldn't say that's a bad idea, especially if you can get through the mage boss, and like dodge all of her things. Then you can like get through it. So yeah, that's basically my Everbloom run. This is the run I've been working on lately, with the skipping of the mages. I feel like that's much more worth it than just to press W and get pull that mini boss, the tree guy right there. I definitely don't want to ham in it, but overall I think Everbloom is a really fun dungeon. I have been playing a little bit too much, because I have been helping a friend with getting a trinket as well as getting myself some new trinkets. But yeah, I guess there's nothing else to say, but thank you so much for watching, and again, thank you so much for hitting over 500 subscribers, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.